Hey, this is Seth, and in this video, I'm going to share with you the secret of how to choose a career the right way. I have seen so many videos and articles giving such bad advice about how to choose a career, and the entire school system is set up to make you very, very confused and very stressed out about choosing a career. But there is one thing that you will never hear about in any of the other videos or articles that I am going to share with you in just a minute or so. And I'm also going to give you some very powerful mindset tips, a point of view to approach your career from that will give you power and a more peace of mind and confidence when you are searching for this career path. Because the way it's set up now, guys, I know you're so stressed out and you think it's the end of the world if you don't know what, the perfect career for you is right now. And that's not how it should be. In fact, people change careers all the time. There is some weird idea we have as a culture that you pick what you're gonna do maybe when you're 5 years old or when you're 18 and you're in high school and you've never worked a job in your life, and that's the career you're gonna have for the rest of your life. It's kind of like having a fantasy that you're gonna marry your high school sweetheart and stay married for 60 years, and that's not the case with most people. It takes time. You have to date, you have to research careers, and people switch jobs because what they thought one career was gonna be like isn't how it turned out. But you have to really dismantle this belief and the pressure that comes from your family that you are going to be, say, a doctor, you are going to be a lawyer, you are going to be an accountant, you are going to be X. And the other thing people do is they identify with their careers to a ridiculously unhealthy amount. Even if you watch the news, I remember watching the news and they'll be like, a local lawyer, a local handyman, they identify people by their job. Well, as Tyler Durden said in Fight Club, guys, you are not your job. A job is just something you do, and it can be fulfilling, and it can be enjoyable, and you can love your coworkers and make good money, but it is not who you deeply are. And that's one of the reasons, guys, I know this seems maybe a little bit too deep, but I'm telling you, one of the reasons you guys are so stressed out about how to choose a career is because you have your identity collapsed with this career. So it's not just, hey, I'm interested in figuring out what do I want to do for a living, to earn some money to pay for my rent for the rest of my life or for the next couple of years. You're like, I have to find out who I am through this career. It has to be the perfect career, and I've never had a career or a job before, and I have to figure it out, and it leads people to go crazy. This is why people go to college, they pick a major, the major is completely unrelated to any job. They come out of school, they realize that the major is unrelated to any job, then they end up lost and confused. This happens so often. If you are experiencing this, you're actually in the majority. It's a very small percentage of people that actually is like, I know I'm going to be a doctor. They go to med school. By the way, doctors compose only 2% of the population, so it's very, very rare when people actually know what career they want and then they go and do it. There is a lot of trial and error in this process. But here is the one secret that you've never heard of. I swear to God, you've probably never heard this before, and it's so simple. And it's something I taught when I did my first course on filmmaking. This is what I taught people to do. And here it is. Rather than taking a million personality tests and trying to have this esoteric idea of what your perfect career should be based on some things you like and don't like, all you got to do, guys, once you have a broad idea of what you want to do, what you got to do is you contact a person that does the job that you think you might want. And nowadays, this is so easy to do. Back when I was growing up in the 90s, which is like the Stone Age, I mean, if I wanted to be a mechanical engineer, how am I gonna meet a mechanical engineer? But now you can go on LinkedIn and you can find people who are mechanical engineers on LinkedIn. Or if you want to be an accountant, or if you want to be a lawyer, or a doctor, or a digital marketer, you can actually find people on LinkedIn who do the job that you want to do and talk to them. And guys, and I say you need to do this, even if you think you want to be a doctor, an accountant, an engineer, etc. Because when you talk to these people, you will find out what the job is actually like. And it's one of the saddest things to me is that people base their decisions on what career they want based on what their parents are telling them, their teachers, all this nonsense, some personality test. And there's so many people going into engineering. And one of my favorite examples is my student who is from Rochester, whose name is eluding me at the moment. But anyway, he was going to become a biomedical engineer. and he ended up his first day on the job. He went through years of school thinking he's going to be an engineer. And when he finally got into the job, he was in a factory inhaling chemicals, and he hated the work. And he had no idea this is what the job was going to be when he enrolled in college and took out those loans for tuition. He never understood this is what the job is. If he had just shadowed or contacted someone that was a biochemical engineer when he was young, like before he got into college, and was like, hey man, and this is, by the way, this is how you do it. It's very simple. I'm going to jump ahead to this. It's very simple. You get on LinkedIn. You may have to purchase LinkedIn Premium if you aren't connected to the person. And you just write them a really sweet, simple, generous request of a note. It's like, hey, my name is so-and-so. And if you're in high school, guys, this is so easy to do. People love helping high schoolers. Hey, I'm in high school. I love science. I'm really thinking of becoming a mechanical engineer. Or I love math. I'm thinking of becoming an accountant. I would love to take you out to lunch or take you out to coffee, or if they don't live in your area, you could be like, I'd love to get on a Zoom call. I could pay you for your time. Offer to pay, offer to give them something. I'm going to repeat this in another video, by the way. This is like the secret. People are always like, give me, give me, give me. No, you want to offer them and appreciate the value this person would provide for you by telling you what the job is actually like. And then just say, can I pick your brain? Can you tell me about the field? Can you tell me about your job? What's it like? I really want to know more about it before I fully commit to it. And I'm telling you guys, people will love to help you. But I want you to really, the takeaway here is a conversation or actually becoming friends with someone who does the job you want to do is 1,000% more valuable than any personality test or career quiz or what your parents or teachers are telling you. Like a lawyer, let's say you think you want to be a lawyer, but maybe you've just watched a lot of courtroom dramas on TV and you think it's going to be so sexy and glamorous and you're going to be like in the courtroom being like, I object all the time. And then you actually meet a lawyer and they're like, yeah, there's a lot of paperwork and there's a lot of stress and there's like, what do they do a lot? Mediations where you're negotiating with people. You want to find that stuff out first, and then you can like take the stress off yourself and the pressure of like this over analytical, esoteric, sort of crazy world of like, should I be this? Should I be that? Should I be this? And none of those ideas are grounded in reality. That's why it's so stressful. So I want to jump over here to the computer for a minute to illustrate some points visually. And I want to talk about additional points to consider when choosing a career to pursue. These are practical aspects of the career that I have put side by side next to talking to someone who has a career already, because many of these aspects of the career are going to be highlighted and revealed when you actually just talk to somebody about it. But it's good to know when you do speak to them to have these questions and these thoughts and concerns in your mind. And I basically broken down about 5 things. Monthly living expenses. And I started with that because you guys should know, like, what do you need to live? Know what your needs are first before you start trying to figure out what your career is going to be. Some of you guys may think you need more than you actually need. Some of you guys may have it backwards where you have some crazy, expenses. You want this, this, and this. You want this nice car. You want this nice house. And you don't even know how you're going to pay for it. So it's better to start from a grounded place of knowing what your expenses are. And then, of course, you should know the salary of the career that you are considering. Not only the salary now, but the potential into the future. Now, I'm going to give you a couple of resources for both of these things. And this is very important, especially in the U.S., where everything varies by state and city. The cost of living and taxes are very different from state to state. So there's this NerdWallet is a great financial website, and you can see how, like, if you live, $50,000 a year in San Francisco is like the equivalent of making $30,000 a year in Miami. You see, costs almost twice as much money to live in San Francisco than it does to live in Chicago, and it's actually cheaper to live in San Francisco than New York. And this is based on their assessments of the average of like housing, transportation, food, and things like that. They do not include income tax. And this is another article I have a link to here, which is just basically the income tax in most states, which is, these states are kind of more moderate: Colorado, Illinois, Indiana. But then you've got California, which has a sliding scale, which means if you start making, this is one thing I learned, I started making more than 6 figures and my taxes went way up. I paid a lot more in taxes, and that really bites into your paycheck. So certain states like New York can get up to 8%. And these are all things like I'm not going to get into the details of this right now, but this is how you want to approach it. I think this is a great example of, I probably should have put this on. Boom. See, I switched it. And I did that because I think this is more of a right brain exercise to talk to someone who has the career already. But like in life, right brain and creative activities can often have more valuable information than left brained activities, even though left brained activities are very important. You do want to know what your monthly living expenses are, your taxes, cost of living, where you're going to live. Some of you guys, I mean, literally, and I'll talk about that in a minute about, working online or not, but like you literally are doubling your income or having your income based on where you want to live. And that's a huge consideration a lot of people don't think about when they're picking a career. Then, of course, the salary, and again, what you can be making. And you can use a website like PayScale or the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And this is very interesting because you look at, say, like a social worker. You might have a drive to help people. And I met a lot of people like that when I was in college, but they didn't really understand, like they weren't going to be making that much. Now, it says that the average the median pay is $50,000 a year, but realistically, on the low end, people are making $36,000. On the very high end, people are making $82,000 a year. And you really want to look at like how long does it take you to actually get up to this higher amount, and why is only 10% of people earning this much? Whereas if you go to mechanical engineer, the highest 10% earn $136,000 a year, and the lowest 10% earn $60,000, which is a lot more than, say, a social worker. It's a different kind of work. So you want to look at the lows and the highs, and again, understand how long it takes to go from the entry-level position to a higher one. That's why if you look at my course, so like this is an example from a student of my course, Noel. He was working in healthcare for 11 years, and he was just making $55K with overtime. So if you looked at that without understanding it and you say, oh, he makes $55K in healthcare, maybe that's a good salary, but you probably don't see in some of these statistics the fact that he's been working for 11 years and he's just making $55K. And now he got a SEO job. His first job in SEO is $60K in his first year, and he's not working overtime. So these are like, again, if you talk to a person, you'll find this stuff out. You'll find out how long they've been working in the field. It may be too personal to ask them their personal salary, but I definitely think you should investigate this and see what is the potential salary and how long does it take to get there. And then, of course, the third thing is the amount of time required and the cost of any training that is actually required for the career. And this is where a lot of people, like especially law and medicine, are desirable. They're very, there's a lot of prestige associated with those professions, but they also have like the longest schooling periods. And doctors come out of medical school deeply, deeply in debt, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 in debt. Some people even more. Chiropractors are the same thing. Lawyers as well. And it takes years. Being a doctor, you could never be a doctor just for the money. It's such an intensive job, which I'm going to talk about in a second. But a lot of, you have to look, are there certifications required? If you want to be a high school teacher, you have to you have to be certified by the state, and you have to do, there's a lot of hoops you have to jump through. A teacher, again, also looks like it says $61,000 per year median pay, but again, it varies on where you live, the state you live in, the school district that you live in, and how long does it take to get up to the higher wages. It can take years and years and years. Oh, this is an interesting career because they do have that 2-month off for summer vacation, but it's also a very taxing job. You're with students all day. Some people love that, but again, if you want to be a teacher, this is another thing I didn't really mention. You're like, I love teaching. I would never teach in a public school. I get to teach online on the internet. I don't have to deal with any certifications. I don't have to deal with any licenses. I get paid really well, and I get to help people. So there's also, and some other videos talk about this better than I do, which is like, if you really want to help people or do something of a particular nature, is this, do you have to be a lawyer, for instance? Do you have to be a public school teacher? Or is there another way you can use your creativity and your desire to help people? And that really comes down to, I think, number D here, which is the work-life balance of a career. And this, of course, is something that's really a very new concept to people. Traditionally, and like when our grandparents and great-grandparents were growing up, who cared about work-life balance? You got to eat. People would work 12-hour days and have one day off. Now we are very fortunate to have this conversation. Again, some of these high-intensity fields like law and medicine, and even being a teacher are very high stress, and being a financial, not a financial advisor, an investment banker. People work in finance go because of the high salary, but they don't realize just how imbalanced their life is going to become working 80-hour weeks, 100-hour weeks. It's very, and ultimately lowers their salary and becomes very stressful. So you want to take that into consideration as well. And of course, nowadays, if you can work remotely versus in an office, this is something that you want to, again, if you're working like, medicine or law, or, if you want to be an accountant nowadays, you could pretty much be an accountant remotely, right? You're just doing people's taxes. It's all, they send you their information. You don't really have to meet with them. I've had an accountant for 3 or 4 years. I've never met them, versus a lawyer, like you have to go to court. You have to actually physically go to court. So you want to, bear all of these things in mind. And these are questions, these are things you can ask the person that you're going to talk to. You may be a little too personal to ask them about their salary. You can ask them about how long did it, take you to become X? Did you really need certification? Did you really need a degree? And these monthly living expenses and where you're going to live and the taxes. This is, again, very few people think about this before they pick a career to pursue. So the last and most important aspect of this approach, guys, is that you need to approach the entire career search with playfulness and curiosity. This needs to be an exploration, which is the opposite of what you've gotten in school and from your family, where it's very serious and they're heaping a lot of pressure on you to make a choice now. And that's just a really stupid way to approach things. Because again, 16 years of your academic life, or 12 or 16 years, you've never explored jobs. It's almost like if you've never done math and then everyone's telling you need to do calculus by tomorrow or else your life is over. Like, that's really what it's like. You literally need to take the time to educate yourself about the jobs. You don't even know what kind of jobs exist in the tech field, the computer field, the medical field, the legal field. There's so many different fields and so many different jobs. So take it upon yourself to explore like you're in kindergarten, because you really are, because you really have never studied this before, and just find out about these jobs and look into them. Google them. You can take a career aptitude test just to get some ideas. And even if you think you're somebody that has absolutely no idea, just start to get some ideas with a real playful, open spirit, knowing you don't have to commit to any of these careers. You're just exploring. And then when you say, I'm going to contact 5 people from 5 random fields, and I may never even work in this field. Maybe it's something you really think you'll never work in, but contact them anyways. You're exploring, you're in school. Be generous. Like I said, offer to take them out to lunch, offer to pay them for their time, because they are providing you with so much value, so much insight. And if you talk to 5 people about their careers, even if you're never going to go into any of those careers, you're going to feel so much more solid and grounded, because now you're in the real world, guys. You're not in the crazy making world of academia where everything is removed from reality. And you will start to feel better and more confident, and then you'll be like, oh, this particular career, I didn't really like exactly what he's saying, but it gave me some ideas about this other career that might be a better fit. I'm going to talk to somebody in that field and make this your project. And then, this is why people who are thinking about digital marketing and don't know anything about it, who do they talk to? They talk to my students who are working in the field. That's a professional, and they get such a great insight as to how the person likes the job, what the job is like, and they feel very confident when they move forward with my training. And I would just say is that if you guys are going to commit to any kind of a training program or go to college, please do this exercise first. Find out what you're getting into before you do it. And if you meet somebody, let's say you want to be an engineer and you meet somebody that's an engineer and they love it and what they're saying sounds great to you, you will feel so much better in school. You will not have that concern that the actual job, once you graduate, is going to be terrible. You will know, and that's my whole point with this, guys, is to give yourself more knowledge and more awareness. Take the pressure off, enjoy yourself, have some fun, discover. This should be a discovery. This should be an enjoyable process. And again, guys, most of you guys have, there's no judge out there telling you, you have to be a success by the time you're 20 or you're dead. Like, this is how people operate. I felt that way when I was 20, but I didn't get into the career that ended up changing my life until I was 33. Morgan Freeman didn't get his, become a big movie star until he was like 50. Okay. So you guys are very early on. Gary Vee has some good videos about this if you want to research him. Check out those videos. He talks about how you guys are like so early in your lives. You should not be heaping this pressure on yourself. And I hope this video has helped you relieve a little of that pressure and give you some actionable items. Like, I really hope you take on this exercise and contact some people on LinkedIn. I think it will be very expansive for you and very freeing, and it should be very exciting for you and give you some really good ideas. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them below, and I will see you in the next video.